Hello and welcome to LA Currents. I'm Anita Bennett. In September 2022, the City Council confirmed Heather Hutt to represent Council District 10. Now, she has since been reappointed until 2024 to complete the term left vacant by former council member Mark Ridley Thomas. Now, a year into the job, we're checking in with Councilwoman Hutt to discuss progress in CD10, which stretches from Koreatown to South LA, as well as some other key issues in the city. Councilwoman Hutt, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Anita. This is really wonderful to be here a year later. I was just talking to my team about how nervous I was my very first time. So I feel better, more planted in my space, and I'm glad to be here with you.
Excellent. It's always a pleasure. So let's get into the issues. What progress has been made in the past year?
Oh, my goodness. You know, this district had that period of time where there was a disinvestment. And so we've been able to come into the district with a marvelous team and really make change. So when we had the heavy rain, something I learned, you know, people want potholes fixed, and so I want the potholes fixed too, but I didn't know you had to wait till the water was out the hole. So anyway, we got a lot of potholes fixed in our community. We certainly have done work with our unhoused neighbors, and I'm proud to say since I've been there, the progress has been that we have housed over 600 people and done 2 Inside Safe activations with the mayor. And that is really our priority. Somebody asked me recently, like, if this is it for you, what's your legacy going to be? And I'm saying it is housing folks, making sure that they move into bridge and even further into permanent supportive housing. It's a passion for me. I feel like everybody in the 10th district has the same kind of priorities. Keep our streets clean, public safety, and more importantly, house our unhoused neighbors.
In terms of getting the homeless off the streets, has that been a challenge?
Yes, we have people in the community that are resistant to service. And you have to gain trust.
The homeless, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
On our unhoused neighbors. They have their own challenges. They have mental health challenges. They are service resistant. There may be drug abuse. And then we have a pretty big percentage of women who have suffered domestic violence, or they also have other mental health issues. And so all of those things have to be treated differently. There's not a one-size-fits-all to housing our unhoused neighbors. So that's one of the challenges. But thank God I have a great team that really meets with service providers every 2 weeks, and they talk about the hot spots, and then they go in with intention to move those folks into services and into housing.
And this is one of Mayor Bass's key issues that she's trying to address. How closely have you been working with her office?
So when we did Inside Safe at King and Obama, where that came together, you know, I really talked with her team because they are working diligently with these people week after week to help them determine that they'll go inside. And it's a labor of love. Of course, it's work, it's their job, but it's a labor of love, and a lot goes into it. There's a hazmat team that goes in afterwards to do a cleanup that I've been able to speak to and just really thank them for the work that they're doing. So her team is magnificent, and then all the elements they put together to make it a really robust project. It's a workable project, and I'm happy to do that with her. And fortunately, knock on wood, we haven't had any return folks into those inside safe spaces.
So what are the hot spots? You mentioned there are hot spots in CD10.
So we look at hot spots in areas where it accumulates more people, and if there's any criminal activity that happens in that space, then we have to be mindful and take care of that with caution. And we have had some, and we've been able to go in and move people out of those spaces and really clear the way for pedestrians and neighbors.
Housing the unhoused is the biggest issue anyone you talk to in the city in terms of residents. What are some of the other issues that are important to residents in CD10?
Oh my goodness, we have so much. As chair of transportation, people are really concerned about speeding. They're concerned about speeding around elementary schools in particular. They're really concerned about potholes, like I said before, and just a general mobility plan, which I learned as chair of transportation that we didn't have one. So I did a motion for a 5-year mobility plan so we could talk about infrastructure and what that looks like. We should be proactive about people movement, and that mobility plan will help us do that.
I remember a few years ago, a key issue was the sidewalks and the little wheelchair access areas. Is that still an issue in the city?
I believe the city has done a good job at getting to our main intersections so that where people are actually using crosswalks, that those wheelchair ramps are already in. So that's not a key issue any longer. What we need are upgrades in our crosswalks, having the blinky lights, if you've seen those, especially if they're crosswalks that don't come with a signal light. That's an issue. Repainting our stop lines so that at boulevard stops there is a strong white line so people could see it and prepare for their stop. Things like that, maintenance that we need in CD10, and we've been able to go through our community and determine where we need them first.
Is there anything that can be done to address the traffic?
Well,
you can't get anywhere.
We live with over 4 million people in the city of Los Angeles. I remind folks all the time when they're complaining, I'm like, well, we do live with 4 million people.
True.
And so there are public transportation opportunities that many people are using, and that's really exciting. And more folks are coming out of their cars and onto their bikes if they're making short trips. So it's not only for leisure. One of the things that we did when we did the mobility plan is we went into the community when I say we, the Transportation Committee, to the Barack and Michelle Obama Sports Complex, which is in CD10, and all the members of the committee heard from the community what they're concerned about. Vision Zero, pedestrian safety, bicycle safety. We had about 50 bicycle riders come to the committee on their bicycles, park their bikes right there, and then to have a real live community discussion about their safety. And out of that came a motion to really reach out to the state of California and ask them to put pedestrian and bicycle safety in the handbook. So that when people are applying for their driver's license, it's a part of the questionnaire and it's part of the education.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Right, so we should be able to see that in the next bill cycle in the state.
Okay. You mentioned a motion, and you just introduced another motion recently to ban cashless business. Can you explain to us what that means and why it's important?
Oh my goodness, I don't know if you have enough time. But what I witnessed were people being left out of this economy because they only had cash. In Los Angeles, about 7% of the people are unbanked, about 15% are underbanked. And so what are we doing? Sending them to somewhere else because they can't buy an item because they only have cash? And you know, what does that do to your persona? What does that do to your self-esteem? Also, we have to think about domestic violence. You know, if somebody is fleeing domestic violence, they don't want to use their cards. That's a tracker, right? If they have a partner that shares an account or shares a credit card with them and they're trying to flee, they need to be able to do a transaction with cash, which means buy gas, which means get into a hotel room, all of those things for their own protection, and they should be able to do that. So I'm looking at different instances where people are left out of the economy, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Especially not in a big city where we have 4 million people, right? So we know New York has already banned cashless. Oh. Berkeley and San Francisco. So we have examples in California where it's actually working. And then once I did the motion, I started getting an influx of emails from people saying, hey, I went to a concert at the Greek Theater, which is a city property. And I tried to buy my kid a T-shirt, and I only had cash, and they wouldn't let me. And so then she went home and said, sorry, I couldn't buy the T-shirt from the concert. And then there's this whole mistrust, and, you know, the child was crying. It was just a bad experience for them overall. And she hasn't made it up to the child either.
Oh, that's too bad.
So that's not uncommon. If you win a ticket to a Dodger game, you should be able to buy your kid some popcorn.
Yeah.
You know, and you can't right now. So we have to do better. We have to be inclusive, and this is really about equity.
So what do you say to the business owners who say that it discourages robbery, having the cashless business, not having cash on hand?
I understand. The businesses have to protect themselves at all times from any predator. And so it's the same thing. You're going to have to protect yourself from a cyber attack, protect yourself from somebody robbing you, from a burglary. That is a part of doing business. And I recommend that they do that with or without this ban. They have to protect themselves, especially now in this land of snatch and grab.
Yeah.
They're snatching and grabbing merchandise. And so we all have to open our eyes to protections.
Okay. I think the big question people want to know is, are you going to run for re-election?
I am going to run for election because I was selected.
Yes.
So now this is an election. And I like my job. I feel like there's so much work to do, and I want to be there to do more work. And in doing that, I must run. And so I am running. I have made a declaration, and I have a lot of great support behind me.
You say there's a lot of work to do. What are your future plans?
So we have to really work on what we've started already, operationalizing renter protections, making sure that people are not evicted so that we have a greater amount of people homeless. We have to also build more affordable housing so that we have options. We have a low inventory. People don't have options, and that's why the rent's so high. So how do you make a difference there? You build opportunities, and I want to be there for that. We have unarmed response that'll be coming through my transportation committee. I would love to be a part of bringing in an unarmed response for people that are driving and, you know, their tail lights out. Do they really need to have armed response to that? Or their tags are expired. Do they really need to have a police officer pulling them over? So I'm excited to see what that report back looks like and to do some work to implement.
Is there a lot of calls in the community for that?
Oh, absolutely, especially post George Floyd, absolutely. And so that was, the report was actually called upon before I was selected to be a city council member, but it is taking this long for data and reporting. I can't wait to get it back.
Okay, I can't wait to see it as well. It's been a year since the controversial recording involving 3 council members. Have we made progress in terms of building those racial bridges that were broken?
I believe we have. I believe that this was a time that the Band-Aid was ripped off, and we heard some things that were very painful, especially me. But people in the community have worked really hard to say, hey, we're not like that. Hey, we're not doing that. And, nobody was left out of that conversation, not being belittled. And all the folks that feel like that they're in those different pockets of that conversation have come to me and say, hey, let's do something together. So I don't know if you recall, but Oaxacans were mentioned in that. And so today, a motion went forward that was introduced by me and Councilmember Hernandez to name a Oaxacan corridor on Pico that goes from CD10 to CD1, because that is where the community is. People are business owners there, and they will be recognized for engaging in Los Angeles, for their contributions. And that's really been a part of some of the work that I've been able to do, is to really identify spaces like the New Orleans corridor, because that's where migration happened when people came from New Orleans. Or Malcolm X route, which is a place where Malcolm X can be seen in Leimert Park. It's not for people who live now, it's for our children to be able to look at names and corridors and say, what is that about? And it'll start a conversation so that we understand history and contributions of people of color. Soon we'll be doing Reverend James Lawson route on Adams, close to Holman, because of the work that he did with Martin Luther King. So it'll be a conversation so that children can understand this kind of contribution, where in the rest of the country, they're trying to erase all contributions from people of color. And so in Los Angeles, fortunately, we can amplify the contributions, and people can feel good about where they are and what they do.
Certainly different from places like Florida.
Correct. And that really, that erasure is ridiculous, because we're talking about banning books and history that are watered down already, right?
True. Very true. I need to ask you, what is the atmosphere at council? Are you able to get things done? Because we have had a number of council members indicted, convicted. So how's the council doing?
Well, our city council members are very intentional about getting work done. That's why we're there. We come every day to do the work, and we are continuing that. We're not stopping because people are having challenges. We're doing as much as we possibly can. So we have quorums, we're in our committees, we are voting on very important things to our constituents.
The holidays are not far away. I want to move away from the heavy stuff and go to the lighter stuff.
All right.
The holidays are coming up. What are you going to do for the residents in your district?
Okay, I have so many fun things, right? We are doing the LA Classic. So it's Dorsey High School, which is in the 10th district, their football team, and we are playing against King Drew High School at the Coliseum. So it's going to be a great experience for everybody. The students are very excited about it. And we have Exhibit and Warren G for halftime. And tickets are $15.
The rapper one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I might come over.
Okay, come on. Yeah, let me know. Yes, please come. Everyone else come. It's going to be fun and exciting, and the money goes to the programs of the various schools, for their athletic program. I feel like it's going to be a fun event. So that's the first one. Then we have in November, of course, we're going to do food giveaway, our turkey giveaway. We have a registration. I think it goes out on November 11th, and then we start. We do the turkey giveaway on November 17th.
And you said people can register. Is there a website?
Yeah, they would go to my website, cd10.lacity.gov. We went from org to .gov. And the sign-ups won't become available until November 11th, but you can sign up and then pick up your turkey.
Is there always a good response to the giveaways?
Yes, there's always a good response, and we have a serious line. We do a drive-through to make it easy.
Oh.
And people are able to bring their neighbor too, because everyone doesn't drive. And they can just show their registration, and we fill them up.
Oh, I love that.
Come on out for that.
Yeah, and there's always more than just turkeys, right?
Right, so we do a food box that goes along with it, and it has the fixings that go with turkey.
I love it. So it sounds like there's a lot going on. What's it been like for you? Because before you were behind the scenes, you worked for the council member, and you also worked for former Senator Kamala Harris. So what's it been like making that transition?
It was hard. Moving from, being in the weeds to moving to being the principal is very different. It's taken a year for me to get comfortable in letting staff do their work. So instead of being leadership of staff and they do the work and then present to the member, now I'm the member being presented to. It's different, but I love it. So
that's good.
Getting used to it. Yeah.
How did you deal with the adjustment?
Well, it was a lot of conversation with my chief of staff where he had to let me know what my role was. So, no, we do that. No, see, we do that. So, I'm getting a greater understanding.
You are from LA. You are a true Angelino. When you go around to events and stuff, what do people tell you?
Oh, they're happy I'm there, but I'm not meeting many strangers. And if they're folks that are new to me, I'm just always happy to meet them. I like people. I think that's a key component of this work is that you have to actually like people. And so I like people, and I like the differences that you see in people, and greeting them once makes them no longer a stranger to me. And so that's kind of a good feeling.
Yeah. I see you out and about quite a bit. What do you find the most rewarding about the job?
When you talk to somebody and they tell you, I got to take a shower. And that really did happen, where a woman was resistant. I'm sorry.
I understand.
And then she got to take a shower and hadn't had one for years. So that makes the work really important and rewarding, and you actually see the fruits of your labor when something that we take for granted, like I took a shower today or two, to somebody who hadn't had one for years. So that was probably one of my more rewarding moments. Another was, it's all about the housing, right? I met a mother and a daughter, and they were in 2 tents off of La Brea next to each other. And now they're in housing, and the daughter is at a job now. So they went from the tent to bridge housing and to a key to an apartment. The mother's getting mental health services because they were domestic violence victims, and the daughter is at work. And I'm like, that's what it's all about.
It's amazing. And we need to hear more of this. We don't hear enough about it. A lot of people ignore the unhoused, but you are out and about. What do they tell you?
I met a woman that told me she misses her baby. And, so I'm like, how long have you been away from your baby, and what do we need to do, and will you take housing? And she said, yeah, I'm tired of this, and he has to understand we have to get our baby back. And so her man was feet away, a few feet away, and he was listening. You could tell he was listening. And I said, okay, well, we have agencies that can help you get it. Do you want to go tonight? Like, when do you want to go? No, we have to get ourselves together. And I was like, okay, but I really miss my baby. And I said, well, how long has it been since you've been separated from your baby? She said, well, I'm not really separated. She lives with my parents. And I said, oh, that's great. That's great. But I want her back. And I was like, okay, well, how long has it been? And she said, 9 years. The little girl is 9 years old. And so that was a shocker. Like, I was like, it really blew my mind that she had been in the street this long, and that she did have challenges with drugs, and she was ready now and they were part of the Inside Safe program. Wow. And so those are the kinds of stories. Even we talked to the husband too, or the man, but he was ready to go inside as well. So there becomes a time, I think weather has a lot to do with it too. If it's too hot, it's not comfortable.
Yeah.
If it's too cold, it's not comfortable. And so you can't give up. You got to just keep going so that they can make an informed decision about what's next for them. And I want to be there for that.
Okay, that makes sense. Is the city getting help at the state or the federal level to deal with these issues?
Oh, yeah, our mayor has been incredible in encouraging the president to spend his homeless dollars here in Los Angeles. I was proud to vote for a $1.3 billion budget for our unhoused and, vote on some of the projects that are going to make a difference around the city. And so she's a great advocate for what we need in this city. I think her experience federally lets her know exactly where that pipeline should be to bring it in to make change here.
Excellent. Having worked for Kamala Harris, do you stay in touch with her? Is she aware of these issues?
Yes. Yes, she's uberly aware of what is happening in Los Angeles and throughout California. This is her home state, and so she really loves it. And so she's aware of where we need to make changes, all from fires down to what's happening in the streets. Yeah, she has an awareness. And now we have our new U.S. Senator, LaFonza Butler, who's a friend of mine. And yeah, I'm excited about what she'll do.
Certainly a historic appointment.
Right?
First black woman who is queer, correct?
Exactly.
Excellent.
And married with children. So she's got a whole lot of empathy that she'll bring to this seat and a perspective from all of those different levels.
And just hearing more about what you want to do, what you still want to accomplish. Do you have a timetable on some of these issues?
Well, yeah, of course. I've moved $1 million into a nonprofit so that we could help people if they're getting unlawful detainers or any other evictions. Not the ULA money, but discretionary funds to help people stay in their units.
Okay.
I've also moved another significant amount just into street tree services. So last year it was moved when Herb Wesson was the council member, because that was a part of the budget, and then I did it again when I had the opportunity.
When he was the caretaker?
Yes.
Okay.
And so then I had the opportunity to move a similar amount of money because trees hadn't been cut in 7 years. So when we had our heavy rain and wind, we didn't have all the fall down onto vehicles and buildings like other districts have. And so common sense, basic services are really important in this district. And I'm here to make sure that we get all the services we can for our district.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, Councilwoman Heather Hutt, thank you so much for coming here and discussing these issues with us. And that is going to do it for this edition of LA Currents. I'm Anita Bennett. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.